how negative thinking raises your cortisol, fills your body with cortisol more than it needs. It can stop hair from growing. It creates pain. It creates disease. A lot of what that's happening really can all be attributed to negative thinking. So if your thoughts can make you sick, can your thoughts also make you better?
This episode is brought to you by the Arts Council for Monterey County. What makes life feel real? It's expressing yourself, finding your people, and using art to heal, grow, and be heard. The Arts Council for Monterey County, Arts4MC, believes the arts benefit everyone. They bring art into schools, community centers, and public spaces, and support students with scholarships, workshops, and programs like Poetry Out Loud and Youth Poet Laureate. Whether you're an artist or just looking to be inspired, your journey starts here. Learn more at arts4mc.org. That's arts, the number 4, mc.org. And remember, they're also proud sponsors of this podcast. So thank you to the Arts Council for Monterey County.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Offline Xpression. My name is Jeff Hinderscheid, and I am your host, and we are back. Today I am not joined by our amazing youth ambassador and co-host Victoria Jones. She is taking care of all kinds of errands and business in her daily life, which we always want to support and encourage. But we do have an incredible guest with us today, Mr. David McKee. David, please say hello to the people.
Hey, how's everyone going? How's everyone doing? And it's great to be here.
Yes. Well done, sir. Where are you located?
In New York City.
Oh, man. So you've got a little bit of... You got some jump on us in the time of the day. We were witnessing time travel in real time here.
You know it. Early bird gets the worm, you know?
That's right. It's already... Man, yeah, your day's wrapping up soon, maybe, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Well, how's the weather over there? I hear it's pretty humid.
It's very humid. Yeah, it's 96 and very hot and sticky out today.
Oh, man. I don't mind heat. I can do okay with heat, but humidity is like my nemesis. It's brutal on me. It's like I take a shower, get dressed, go outside, boom, need a shower. It just hits you like a wall of wet, and I'm not a fan.
Literally, I was just going to say, it like punches you in the face when you step out into it. It's the worst.
It does. You know, when I was a kid, my uncle lived in Orlando, Florida, and so I would go out and visit him. And I remember the very first time I went, I got off the plane, I was coming out of the terminal, and like all I can remember was like looking like a fish. I was like, oh, like trying to chew the air as it hit me. It was the first time I ever like almost felt air in such a weird way, but yeah, that was the first time, and it's kind of always been the same. Now, I've been to New York a few times, and I did love it, but I do remember that humidity. There's something kind of fun about it because it's so different from where I'm at. So it's like, oh, I'm definitely in a different place. You know what I mean?
Where are you from? California?
Yep, I'm in Central California. We're right at the southern end of Monterey County, which is a pretty well-known area of California because we have the Monterey Bay and Carmel Valley and all those beautiful places right there on the Central Coast. So it's a gorgeous time. And you know what? We've been pretty fortunate. Last year this time, it was like 110 degrees. This year, we're pushing 92 today, and we're like, whoa, it's a hot day, you know? So it's been very different this summer, but I'm not complaining because that usually means it's going to be hot all the way through October. It pushes later, so
okay,
we'll get our due, I'm sure. Well,
for sure, we all get it.
Yeah, we all get it one way or another.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show today. We were very excited to have you. When I first saw kind of your bio and what you do, I was like, oh man, this is the exact kind of conversation with the exact kind of material and information that our listeners really need and look forward to from us. So. Without further ado, David, I'm going to go ahead and give you an opportunity. Go ahead and introduce yourself in your own way. Tell us what you do, who you are, what your passions are, how it got you there, all the stuff.
You got it. Yeah, I'll try to do a quick rundown. I'm the CEO of another Angle Consulting. It's a consulting firm I founded. It started off as a bookkeeping consultancy, and it's turned into branches of I have on CEO coaching as well as music business and music label that I started. So I have a big background between music, accounting, and finance. And then based off my family history, my dad was manic depressive growing up and dealt with a lot of things with the breaking of our family, just a lot of stuff kids shouldn't see. I had to endure. And about 10 years after, that was when I was 18 to 20, I got really hyper fixated on psychology and neuroscience and epigenetics because I wanted to understand why my dad did that. I couldn't, as a kid, ever put the pieces together. And it was something that you kind of get into all that stuff of what happens to you. Or you think it happened to me. Why did it happen to me?
Right.
And yeah, I was able to kind of get to the conclusion that, yeah, my dad was just in a bad situation and made a bad choice. And it was as simple as that. And it's one of the things that I feel like if we can get to that level with so many other people, don't mean to get into this right off an intro.
No, go for it.
Yeah, that if we're able to do that and like speak out about that type of stuff, that we can help it in advance so people don't feel as alone and that end of the spectrum.
Oh my gosh. Yep. You know, you said you came to terms with it in the sense that like your dad was in a bad situation and made a bad choice. And when we can kind of come to this realization about people and humanize that understanding in a way of, you know, kind of empathetically putting yourself in their shoes, it helps so much because we don't understand that, especially as kids. We don't, what's going on? What did I do? We don't have the tools yet to put ourselves in their shoes and go, what are they going through? What are their thought process? What's really happening? And so good for you. You dove into the work and kind of found an answer and like, oh, well, this is what was going on. And yeah, I don't know that I wouldn't have done that same thing. I'd like to think I wouldn't, but I do understand how that could have occurred. And that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I mean, it's when you know where that's coming from and you can humanize it and really just break it down. Is I'm big and I do a lot of conflict resolution with clients, as well as clients could be businesses or people, whether it's relationships, anything on down, that I really dig into the fact of if we can just get to the point of, I truly believe nobody hates somebody. Usually you're given information that's not true that leads you to hate somebody. And I'm not talking about groups. I'm talking about anybody, any type of hate at all. And I came to this realization not too long ago that we're in this cycle that we can't see, that essentially all it is we don't understand each other. And that's as like when you have a disagreement or you're going at someone, you just don't understand. And you're screaming at the top of the lungs, she's screaming at the top of her lungs. You think you're going to get somewhere, and it's like, no, they're on two different frequencies. They have to really get to a settled place where they can talk together and at least come to some resolution or figure it out.
Oh my gosh. Yes, man. You know, I just came here from, I teach social psychology, and this morning I was having a conversation with my class, and I was lecturing on cognitive dissonance and, you know, post-decision dissonance and, you know, the IKEA effect, the justification of effort, and all these different things, right? And one of my students asked, I mean, good for her. She went right to politics immediately. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, look, in this class, we have to be safe enough to say the real stuff. We got to get into the dirt sometimes. Now, it doesn't mean that we should be necessarily, I'm not going to tout my personal opinions on it, but I'm going to help understand why these things could happen. And one of the things she asked about, she said, how can somebody who knows a certain amount of information still support somebody, even though it's a direct assault and attack on them? And I said, well, I would need to know way more information, first of all, to know, because you can't do a generalizing blanket statement about stuff like this. But I kind of said, similar to what you're saying, you have to look at each person as a person individually. What are they going through? What is their situation economically, with their family, with their race, with their culture, with their finances, with their history? Like, what is all this complicated stuff equaling in their mind? And then I want you to ask yourself, do you hate this person? Do you dislike this person? do you not understand this person? How much work have you done? Have you just gone out there and searched for confirmation of your own biases, and then you're just like, yep, I knew I was right and they were wrong? Or have you looked at everything from their point of view, done some research as to why they might believe what they believe, and then had a conversation? Because until you can do all that, it's just a he said, she said. And I agree with you about hate. People will justify feelings of disagreement by just lumping people into a certain category that they call dislike or hate, just because it's easier. They just dehumanize them and move on there, and then that becomes their truth every time they interact with that person, and that's no way to live.
No, it's we've got to get to a place where we can talk out what's going on. We've become into society, in my opinion. I'm not labeling anyone. I'm just saying as a whole, I think that this is kind of what the problem is. I call it scorekeeping in relationships, and other people may know it as finger pointing. If you are always blaming someone, always kind of like getting into that, one is awful for your brain because you are thinking in such a negative state that you are being brought down to the lows of the low, and you're going to find when you're in those situations, the lows of the low.
Yep.
So it's the more you can be accountable. Literally, is the best thing that has happened to me is I went through my dark night of the soul. They call it ego death, whatever you want to have. And I wasn't someone with a big ego, but I had a little bit of one. And going through that and now being able to step back and just be like, it's not about me. It's literally, there's so much around me, so many things, so many goings on that you really just got to drill down and be able to be accountable, let you like know when you're wrong, and it's not a problem. But this social media world where everything has to be perfect and everything is a comparison to models or content creators or whatever, and you feel you always have to be perfect, we're not perfect. We're all human. So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall into those traps. And you're starting to see some people kind of put out there like, hey, let me put out life isn't going that great on my social media or something like that. And I think that's a huge step forward. Is it shouldn't be a highlight reel for everyone.
Right.
It's going to be for some people, and that's where it's going to be. But you just kind of have to be on for yourself. You could have the best post that really it affected you. It could have the best impact on your life for the rest of your life, but it only gets 5 likes. Does that make it less? Does that diminish that feeling you had? It might after the fact, but then that's all in your head of what you're portraying of what perception is. And the more we can look at ourselves and love ourselves for all the good and the flaws, it really helps to be able to take that step away from always blaming the other person.
Yep. I couldn't have said that better. And, you talk about your own history, right? Like that's how I learned the most. I look back on some things and I question all sorts of stuff, but when you analyze it individually and, look at each person as a human, you do understand things. And then it helps you kind of come to terms with some stuff that you feel about your own existence and experience, right? It's like, oh, I feel better because that wasn't about me. And so when you do this scorekeeping thing that you're talking about in relationships, it doesn't get you anywhere. And what it does is it builds feelings of animosity, and that makes it harder to continue. And then you try to pick it up later and it starts to stack. So we always do this. You get in, you always say that, or we always, and you don't actually resolve anything. And so then when you have these feelings of, oh my gosh, have I made a bad decision by being in this relationship? You got to justify that dissonance, right? You got to go, okay, well, I either need to get out of the relationship or I need to change the way that we do things. We got to change some behaviors. And that's hard for people to do because oftentimes people don't want to admit they were wrong. It affects their self-esteem to actually do that because they don't understand that it actually increases your self-esteem later to be humble and understand that, hey, we can move through this together if we both just say, hey, I wasn't in the right on that, and I'm going to try to do a little better. So
you got to take the attitude, and I say this all the time. I'm getting married later this week. I say that thank you so much. I appreciate it. I say it to my fiance. We say it to each other often that we'd rather individually be wrong and us win as a team than me be right, but we lose as a team.
Oh, I love that.
And if you can take that mentality, it's just one of those things of it doesn't matter if we're right. Are we getting closer to the answer? Are we getting closer to the solution of what we're doing? It's like anything within business. Our biggest businesses in our country are successful because they failed. They had issues. They were able to kind of figure out what they were and then take off from there. And we've become a society that you want to pull the plug or rip the Band-Aid off as soon as someone makes one mistake. And I'm big on that. We're way more than like, our mistakes and our bad side, our angry side, whatever you want to kind of call it. It accounts for roughly probably 2.5 to 3.5% of our life. Like we don't really do that. But the wild thing is we can be kind all the time and then have that little bit of disruption of something that makes us mad. And then we're stewing about what makes us mad. And I've really gotten into the power of, I wrote a book that will be coming out later this year called Navigate the Noise. And it works with that whole side of the mindset of, we went through all the scientific studies of how negative thinking raises your cortisol, fills your body with cortisol more than it needs. It can stop hair from growing. It creates pain. It creates disease. A lot of what that's happening really can all be attributed to negative thinking. I'm not saying negative thinking is the only thing that makes you sick. It can make you sick or make you worse off if you do get sick with something. And I love what Joe Dispenza got into to start to talk about the positive side. So if your dreams can make you, or your thoughts can make you sick, can your thoughts also make you better? And it's something that I coach my clients on constantly. I do it myself on an everyday basis. The power of neuroplasticity you talked about changing your mind before. We all have that ability until we're about like 65 to 70 years old. We really have an impact that we can change anything. The problem is we're naturally usually lazy as humans and we don't want to change anything. So it's not that you can't, you just won't. And it's easier just to say you can't because then maybe someone won't question you or whatever. When you're saying you won't, you're just not giving any effort and you don't want to come off that you don't care.
Right.
So it's one of those things that if you can tell as I talk very fast, I've got ADHD and I got recently diagnosed with that. And I really dug into that side of everything as well, of what I would have thought if I was diagnosed with that as a kid. I would have thought of it as such something was wrong with me. I would have taken it really seriously personally. And I know the difference in mindset that I'm in, that 2 years ago when I got the diagnosis, I was like, oh man, I've got like a superpower. That explains
yes, you
why,
do.
why I do what I do. And so it made so much sense to me that I was like, man, I'm glad I figured out how than earlier in life, because I would have just handled it completely different.
Right. Oh my gosh, so much good meat in that section there. Well, first of all, welcome to the team. I also have ADHD, and I was diagnosed as a kid, and I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones, man. I really was. My mom was super diligent, and she had me in cognitive therapy, behavioral therapy when I was a really young kid, and like learning these different habits on how to recognize when I'm having a bad day, how to recognize tools I can use to do better in school and with my conversations and relationships and stuff. So all of those carried over. Now, I have often said, the gift is the curse. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because some days are rough, whereas other times, you're right. It is a total superpower. I feel very confident, and you seem like the same kind of person based on what I see that you've done and the way that you're speaking. The passion that you have for what you do fuels so much productivity to where, without sounding like a braggart, I know you'll understand this, but like, I feel like I can work 4 hours in 2, I can run circles around people in certain areas. And that's not because, they're not great. It's because when I latch on to the positive sides of the superpower, all of a sudden it's like being the Flash, and your brain is going a mile a minute, but you learn tactics, right? You're like, okay, I have 11 things I need to do today, and I can do them in any order I want. And when I get bored or I'm not focused or I'm not doing my best work in this area, know it, see it, name it, move to something else, come back. And when you do that, you give yourself natural grace for that downside of the diagnosis that allows you to keep feeding the good side of it. So kudos to you for, being a lifelong learner in it. Being diagnosed 2 years ago as an adult, sometimes people never find out. So knowing is half the battle. And then you go, okay, what am I going to do with this information to live my life? So good for you, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It put me into ways of how can I help people, because it was such an eye opener for me, and I've been able to come to terms with it. Like, I want to be able to, and it's really why I wrote this book, is really to kind of get into I made it as simple as possible for someone to understand. So someone at a 7th grade reading level should understand probably 80 to 90% of it. A little bit might go over their head with some of the studies, but past that, it's stuff that they can do and really attribute to their daily life, to whether you're in a negative thought pattern, limiting beliefs, any of those nasty things that kind of get into. It was just kind of going into it. And thank God I had this background in neuroscience, because when I figured out the ADHD, I was like, oh, okay, my brain is like this. I coach people who are like this. I'm going to start actually doing what I've told them to do. And I
Yeah.
walked back through, and I had to reach out to some of those old clients, because I had said, I was like, man, I'm thank you for sticking through it with me, because I didn't get you then. Like I got you to an extent, but I didn't get exactly what you were saying. I was like, I do now.
Right.
But it made it that much cooler, because I was like, you know what? I had these connections with people who I knew thought like that. And I can, when I'm in that type of mode, I can talk to people. But you're 100% right. I compared it that when you get those moments of when you can lock in and really like be dialed in, it's like that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
that you're in that zone.
Yes.
But the problem is we also deal with the flip side, is when you're not locked in, it is so hard to focus that it's literally like the 180 of what that experience is. So we get super locked in, and I'm really highly convinced that you get someone a 40-hour a week desk job, and they have ADHD, they probably can do 12 to 13 hours of actual work, and the rest they're just going to be kind of coasting.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, what if they can lock in for that, they're going to get that done. And like the non-missing of deadlines and being on top of stuff, it becomes, that's where we get our attention to detail. I don't
Yeah.
have much attention to detail with cleaning, like cleaning stuff constantly, or seeing if there are changes with feng shui within like my apartment or something. My fiance will say, "Hey, do you notice what happened?" I'm like, "No, I've got nothing." But then in my thoughts, I am like that. That I really get very like, "Oh, okay, I've got to start going this way." So
Yes.
it's always a work in process, but it's become fun. I really look forward to a lot of the challenges with it.
Oh man, what a great attitude to have. And it's true. All the things you said are true, and I can attest to it. So, well, with that in mind, I'm so excited to read this book when it comes out. I can tell you that, because the noise is, I long compared it to like when Spider-Man first gets bit by the spider, and like that
Mm.
first day is just overwhelmed by all the heightened senses. He can hear everything. He can smell every smell. There's too much sensory input at any given point, to where learning how to hone in and quiet some of that to be able to focus on what's important in some ways. The
Mhm.
spidey sense, quieting noise is great. And across the mental health field, like,
Yeah.
when it comes to um certain types of negative thoughts, everyone has those, and you have to train
Mhm.
yourself to battle those. Are these realistic? Are these real thoughts? Are they catastrophized
Mhm.
thoughts? What are they? There's noise all the time. So being able to quiet it, especially before it gets into a more serious comorbid stance, where you're into substance use and
Mhm.
alcoholism and stuff, that's literally a physical vice, to quiet said noise and to
Yeah.
numb that stuff. Being able to have any sort of roadmap or any sort of information out there on ways to do that, I think is always going to be a benefit to everybody. So I'm looking forward to reading this book, man.
Thank you. I'll make sure you have an advanced copy.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Well, tell us
I'm in.
about your consulting business. So it's called Another Angle Consulting. It's an advisory firm, but it also, you talked about breakthroughs in psychology integration, the neuroscience stuff, mindset coaching. So it sounds like you're obviously qualified to do all this, just from our limited conversation thus far. But
Thank you.
tell
Thank you. Yep.
tell us a little bit about why and how this came about, and how you kind of put all those great ideas into one to make this a business.
So it was a mix of strategy and then also a lot of luck. I can admit to that to a T. Is that a lot of things? I cracked a lot of eggs to make this omelet. There were things that didn't go right, and then things that were right. And instead, I really got focused in on what is working and what's helping the most. So it started off. I got injured at an old job in 2014, hurt my back and needed back surgery,
Mm.
and going through that, because of the ADHD, which now I understand, but back then it was just frustrating. After 2 days out, I got cabin fever. I was going nuts. That I was like not doing anything or not having that like feeling of responsibility or attachment
Mm.
to something that needed to get done. And so I started trying to think, what can I do for a business? And kind of came up with the idea that I went through and found local businesses, mom and pop shops, and I would call and ask them to pay a bookkeeper. I'm not trying to make what I was making as a CFO and controller, but do you have a bookkeeper? Like, or is someone doing your books who has an accounting background? So it was my way of actually giving back to my local community and to an extent is I did charge, but I didn't charge my rates of what I've made in other jobs. I kept it low. I tried to keep it really reasonable. And it ended up being a really nice business because a lot of these smaller businesses didn't have anything or didn't know tax strategy or didn't know any of the background things because it's just kind of above their head. They were able to go in with confidence to know what their financial situation is so they can make the right decisions. If you're bleeding money, you don't know it. How do you make any type of decision to help impact your business moving forward? You just can't.
Yeah.
So I really did that for a lot of the educational purposes to be able to help the local community. And honestly, it was something I needed at the time, but it really developed into, okay, this is a platform for me where I can help people. And I always was fascinated by music. That same year when I got hurt, my mom had actually passed away about 2 months before my injury.
Oh man.
And thank you.
That's a rough year. I'm sorry.
It was. But honestly, it's happened for me, and I've never felt better about it. So I've been like it turned, but it was just kind of like I was in a funk from that, and then the job thing happened, and I was just kind of like in the, what am I going to do? And as a result for that, I was always into music. I was a singer as a kid. I was a performer, and I essentially started getting back into music because I went to therapy. My therapist kind of said, Dave, you're miserable with everything that was going on with my mom and my injury and my pain. And she's like, you're not doing anything and you're saying it's just going to be too painful. She's like, what's the point of, if you're feeling this bad anyway, how much worse can it get? And she took that mentality, and I think like that a lot. And I was like, I think she's right. I was like, you know what? So I'm going to go back to music. And it was, I went away from music because my mom taught me everything I knew about it. She taught me how to sing, how to play guitar, piano, any note, any certain thing. Is just, we sang together. We performed. Like one of the core things later in life, when I was like 22, I got to do a play with my mom, and like literally we were in a scene together. It's like, it was just one of those cool things that you just don't really get to experience much. And now I look back on it, I'm like, getting that experience after she left, I was like, man, it means so much more to me now than it did then. It was really cool in the moment, but
Right.
I go back now, I'm like, man, I was like, I got like little extra things that I know people don't always get when they lose a parent.
Right.
So yeah, so I got into this music side that really wanted me, getting back into music and my love for that. And as a result, dumb luck, right during COVID, a friend reached out to me and knew my knew I was always a good talker. And then as I started getting the background with psychology, neuroscience, which I did in my spare time when I wasn't running the business, on that injury, is I just really dug in, and I did an online school for it and learned as much as I could. I just kind of ingrained myself. And because I had that background, my friend said, I know you've been doing this lately, and she's like, you're a good person to talk to because you know this stuff. So she's like, I need you to talk to my client, because she was managing this former country child star who grew up and had some success, but just kind of wasn't the same, just a lower level, and so, which is fine. It just was one of those things that is where I had talked to him more or less, is kind of get into the details of all that, of what was going on. And she just said, she's like, he's one of my best friends, but I'm not getting through to him anymore. She's like, but he respects your opinion, and I think he would listen to you so she's like, can you hear him out? So we talked for about 3 hours on the phone one night. I know he was hesitant at first, but it ended up being a conversation we had. And I found out he was in writer's block for about 9 months, hadn't written anything, and was just stuck. And I jumped in, and we had a good first conversation, like 3.5 hours. And then we get 3 more calls that week, and we started writing, and we just started making it. And so it literally started that I was like, okay, we were talking out this situation of what's going on, and we're talking as friends, just like you and I are. But I know he's this genius musician, and if I could get something going, where can we go? So even though these were via Zoom during COVID, is we would get into essentially like what you do in therapy, and how you start talking stuff out, and how you get vulnerable and put stuff out there,
Right.
and getting into those frame of mind. And between that, as well as with his block, helping him remember when he was having success, what was he doing? What was different in his day to what he does now to then? And how can we incorporate some of then into now to try to at least get the brain remembering what it was like when I did that? So I was like, if you had a morning routine and you were really successful, and then you get away from that and you're not successful anymore, go back to that morning routine. Your brain has literally stored pathways saying, I know what I used to do when I did this. So it doesn't always fix the situation, but it's something that could be an easy fix that people can change within themselves.
Wow. Wow. And artists understand the the stuck feeling, when something's just not hitting right, or you're just not feeling something, or the passion is in this weird lull, and the imposter syndrome of it all. Like, there's so many pieces to that. And you're right, if you go back to the basics of what a human being is dealing with and unlock those things in relation to what they're going through on a professional level, they'll almost always find their way back to that door. So, but it takes a certain type of conversation, an organic kind of leading, that is not something everybody can do. So good for you, man. That sounds like you really helped that person. And so, well, first of all, before we go any further, I need to know, because I'm a musical theater artist guy. I own my own theater production company. I work with a lot of different groups like that. And so my question to you is, what play did you do with your mom?
What's up, all you expressionists out there? Do you need reliable IT support and more for your business? SPJR Computer Consulting delivers comprehensive solutions tailored to small and medium-sized businesses. From seamless technical support to professional website design and effective online advertising, we keep your budget in mind. Don't miss out. Visit spjrsolutions.com today. That's spjrsolutions.com. Your business deserves the best.
Ooh, what play did I do with my mom? We were in Carousel together.
Yes. Yes.
Old school Rodgers and Hammerstein.
That is my number one favorite Rodgers and Hammerstein. And I know that's a controversial thing to say anymore because of the context, but when I was a kid, I would listen to the cassette tape in my cassette player at night when I was going to sleep. I listened to a lot of different musicals, The King and I and all these other ones, right? But that one was one of my favorites. So whenever I listen to it now, I get really kind of verklempt, in a way. But anyway, that's awesome. I bet that was a lot of fun for you guys. So yeah, okay, you get back into music. A little bit of luck involved, a little bit of going crazy. COVID was terrible for those of us with ADHD, because that shelter in place thing we are not animals meant to be caged, and a lot of people found reconnection with family. A lot of people ended up in a place where it was like a ticking time bomb with everybody stuck at home together, didn't realize how much they needed that outside time. But in your case, you found some new passions. You got this coaching thing up and going, and then the music thing. So you said earlier that it went from a passion for music to like a full-on label?
Yeah, I created my own indie label that I'm trying to, the goal is it's a nonprofit, and we promote artists that we think should have a voice in this world, who are good people, and whether they've gone through something or struggled with something, and then if they have a story to tell. And we've worked with several artists. We have one main signed artist. His name is Sevi. His real name is Reed. He's from New Zealand. We have never met, and so literally he's on the other side of the world. And we've written, worked on an album together. And we have our producers down in Tampa, and the three of us has never been in the same room at the same time. I've met the producer from Tampa, but just never the three of us. And the cohesion that's there and the brotherhood there, that it's just a really cool dynamic. Especially the fact that happened because of literally it happened because of COVID. That people were open to start. Musicians were starting to be okay with. Okay, I'm going to be able to do this. Right. Where it was always let's meet in the studio in the past, and when that went away, it really gave this opportunity. So I do selective music projects here and there, and it's just music's in my bones. So I love it and always want to be a part of it.
That's awesome. And you know what? That's an ADHD thing too. Sometimes we go, you know what? I want to do this, and I'm going to do it, period. Yep. And it may not be the biggest company we own. It may not be the biggest outlet, but I love it. And so I'm going to just do it now. Sometimes people just do not understand. They're like, what do you mean? Like, you're just going to found a nonprofit and have a music label? Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. So good for you, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So let me go back to your consulting agency and your coaching real quick. Obviously, you've already brought up COVID, and we know that COVID is a big major contributor to a lot of change that happened globally with um, societies, cultures, and of course, technology. So, one of the things that our show uh, it focuses on and has a mission for is finding ways to help people that have now kind of succumbed to this overwhelming use of technology, social media. You mentioned earlier about the comparisons online and all those sorts of things. Well, we have our youngest, most vulnerable population really getting hooks stuck in them at an early age with these things that are causing this huge spike and all these mental health issues. So, in your line of work, what kind of trends have you noticed that you have to kind of focus on, or things that you have to deal with when it comes to that balance, especially for a CEO in a company that has to use social media to their advantage constantly and website development constantly in order to be successful without being overwhelmed, overrun, and a victim to the intense stuff that's out there?
Sure. Yeah. So really the biggest thing, sorry, ADHD is kicking in.
Yep.
What's the main question again?
Yeah,
heard
I
the end
know.
part, and I was like,
Oh my gosh, you use the same tactic I do. I'm like, I need you to repeat that, please.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious about like when you work in your line of business, when you're working with small business owners or CEOs of bigger companies and stuff like that, how do they, how are they navigating these trends? Like, how are they navigating the balance in technology?
Sure. The biggest thing that I've seen and that I coach people on is getting your message out as effectively and quickly as possible. Our attention spans went down during COVID. We started going into Reels, YouTube Shorts, whatever you want to call it, on whatever social media, TikToks. You're going through, and we have people have 20 to 30-second attention spans. I find it fascinating. I'll watch someone listen to a song or watch an episode of TV or a video on social media, and it it'll start off that it interests them in the first 10 seconds, and you'll see if they go 5 to 7 seconds of no interest, they're going to swipe. It's just like you've got to get them engaged and keep them engaged. So we've planted our messages to make stuff, all the stuff just to kind of extend stuff or make stuff seem long, get rid of it, go shorter. And really, it's happened in the music industry too, partially because of that, as well as the side of music used to make money off your CDs and the physical albums, the records that you were giving out. And that's almost non-existent now. There's a little element of it. A lot of artists will do signed stuff to try to get some of those numbers up, but there's not a lot of that anymore.
Right.
They even changed what is platinum based off how many records are sold because it's just a different world now. And because of that, they went to shorter songs. So if you even look at the length of songs from 2015 to now, the average song in 2015, I think, was still like 3 minutes and 8 seconds, 3 minutes and 11 seconds in that ballpark. And now the average song on Spotify is like 2.5 minutes. And it's they're getting it too, is that it's even music. People are getting shorter attention spans. And that's what these things do, is the constant need for that dopamine that is getting pushed out when you don't really need it. It is just throwing off every sense of what you have or what you're doing. And it's something I always like to pass on. This is one of the tips it's in my book, as well as I try to share it wherever I can, is being able to have the ability of, when you start that negative thought loop or the negative thought cycle, same part of the brain that processes anger, sadness, depression, frustration, any of those nasty, I call them the nasty emotions, is the same that processes gratitude. And if you can be grateful, you literally can cancel out whatever you're feeling. And the science behind that is that that part of the brain can only process one of those emotions at a time. And if one's in, the other one's got to wait until it's out. So if you can catch yourself fast. You had mentioned that before, and that was one of the things I meant to say, and I was like, I went off, but I wanted to bring that back up because it's been such a game changer for me and my clients that have ADHD, that it stops a lot of the long-term negative. And I let them know, if you feel something, I was like, that's normal. It's okay to feel that. It's how fast can you get back to calm? How fast can you get back to your center where you're at your best? And because that's the measure of it's like boxing. You're going to get punched and you're going to get knocked down. Are you able to get back up, and how quickly can you get back up? And the longer you're down, the more likely is you're going to stay down. So it's finding that balance.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. And gratitude is something that we almost take for granted sometimes because
Mhm.
it's hard for people to realize how much they have in comparison to how much other people do not. Now, we want to compare ourselves all day long. People compare themselves on social media to all the things that other people have that you don't have. Like there's
Uh,
this self-preservation of the human mind as a species. Centuries ago, we were all living in the forest or whatever, and if you didn't have all of your senses about you, there's things out there that could kill you if you wandered too far from camp. Well, those days are
mhm.
kind of like different now. So we still are wired the same. So we're constantly looking for the things that might be hurting us. And that's not always a good thing. But if you know that, you can replace that, just like you said, to where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
what I do have is this, 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 this. And I'm so glad I do. And that's as simple as gratitude can be sometimes, is just listing
Yeah.
all those things that are good. And that's one of the negative things I've seen about social media, probably the most, especially for our young teens who are at their most vulnerable developmental stages. It literally puts in front of them all the things they should be desiring to have and all the people that have them and they don't. And that is feeding the antithesis of gratitude. It's
Yeah.
literally feeding them, you should be sad that you don't have more. And that's horrible to think about it like that. But
Mhm.
if they don't get right with that reality, then it's very hard to come back from, because then it's too late. Then you look back and go, what happened to me? And
Mhm.
if you can train yourself to get gratitude in your mind and remove some of those negative thought patterns, that is a very effective way to battle through some serious symptoms. That's great advice, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's one of my favorites, and it's been something I've utilized, and it's helped me to a level that I can't even explain. It literally opened up so many doors that when I realized that worked and what a difference that made in helping me calm down,
Uh-huh.
then my meditations got easier and everything, like literally everything else fell in place. I had struggled meditating for years. Again, ADHD problem.
Right.
Uh, and I tell anyone, meditation is just knowing yourself. It's just, it doesn't, you don't have to, if you don't want to. It could be praying, it could be any form of that. I consider that all kind of in the same ballpark. Is you're shutting down your eyes, but you're staying awake to consciously think of or activate something, whether it's a prayer or whatever you're going through. And if you can do that, it just really you slow down so much of what's going on. And if there is noise, it literally you can mute it when you're in the into that state. And the more you do it, the more you get better at it. And it really it's like working out in the gym. I know so many people who have told me they're like I overthink. I can't do that. They're like I do it for 5 seconds and I'm done. And I'm like, all right, try to do 6 seconds next time. Like build it literally is the
Right.
muscle that you build up. And like I was one of those people, I couldn't get through 2 minutes. And now I'm someone who like I love 2.5 hour ones. It's just like one of the like give me a long one. I was like up all day. That's just kind of become my thing. So it's just I realized that when I was doing that, I was able to see a very clear thing is when I started losing my cool or my edge or anything that was going on, there's a clear distinction. And I had stopped meditating. I had stopped being really in the zone and knowing what I wanted to do. And a lot of it is I need to, because of the ADHD, I like to make sure my intention is crystal clear. Because the
Right.
more crystal clear your intention is, especially with this ability that we've got, you're going to get it done. So really just started getting hyper focused of what can I finish next, and whatever project it was, and whether it was in the film space, the accounting space, the finance, or the thought leader space, or music. I'll jump to a different thing every day, and I really love that side of it because it for me it's I'm actively practicing neuroplasticity of jumping and doing different things and just showing I can and jump into that and still work in a certain level of ways, doing a lot of different things. Like when I was a teenager, that we have that ability as teenagers, and we stop exercising it, and it kind of goes away. So the more we can do, the more active we can stay. It really just helps push us to another level.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different ways to go through different therapeutic journeys, right? But I find that meditation and the path to self enlightenment is usually on every list, no matter which therapeutic journey you are on. finding a way to meditate and be in touch with yourself and know yourself in a certain way is a key component of that. I often say it in a much blank. I say, I tell students because they're young, they're college freshmen, most of them, and I go with, become your own best friend. And I know that's easier said than done, but the visualization is this person here between your ears. They're never going to leave, ever. They're going to go with you every single place you go, to sleep, to meetings, when you're at the movies, when you're doing anything. And if that person and you don't get along, if you're not friends, life will be harder, a lot harder. But if you can find ways to become friends with that person by feeding them, meditation is feeding. Going outside into the sunlight and fresh air is feeding. Life will be better.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're just so spot on with that side of everything, that if you can, all that does is it slows it down. It's the act of visualization, meditation, however you want to add that in.
Right.
And for me, where I got the jump on it, because I'll be the first person to say, I used to think a lot of that stuff was woo woo or out there.
Right.
And it just was like, okay. And then as I start reading, and I made this a major part of my book so people could connect to it, is talk about some of the greatest athletes of all time. If you want to talk swimming, we think Michael Phelps. He always talks about visualization, meditation, and knowing what was going to happen when he had that issue at, I think it was his last Olympics, where he gets caught up with the side in between the lanes. But then he's able to adjust and he gets out of it. And they asked him post interview, how did you do that? Like, how was that happening? And he had said, I visualized that for 2 years. I've been waiting for that to happen. And it's just one of those things that you can lock in. And that's some people would say that that's an example of the quantum working, of you put something out there and on that side of it and how it comes back to you.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many science tests that you could kind of get into it, but that's a whole other
Oh, yeah. The secret, right? The power of attraction, the law of attraction, all that stuff.
Attraction. Yep. Oh, yeah. And I mean, the coolest thing is, and it's my personal thing of what I think is the hack to law of attraction, is people talk about manifestation all the time. And I actually love it now because it's become kind of mainstream and it's not weird to talk about anymore. Right. So I like to talk manifestation and manifesting whatever you want. And the first thing that I run into with so many people is I ask, do you pray or do you meditate, or like where do you do that? And they're like, yeah, I pray and I'm manifesting. I'm going to manifest this amount of money. And then I'll ask them, okay, how long did that prayer last? And they're like, maybe a minute. I'm like, okay, what did you do the other 23 hours and 59 minutes of the day? And they'll usually say, well, sleep and then stress. And it's stress, work, or any type of combination of that.
Right.
And what I'm trying to open the eyes to people is, the more you think in that positive, the more your life becomes that. I agree with you 100%. The more you can be thinking actively of what you want to manifest throughout the day. Think of it in a positive manner. It's going to happen. It's like keep just drilling that into you. Anytime you start thinking negative, go right into, I can't wait for this to happen. This is happening next year, or next month, or whatever the case is. And if you can think about that, and that's a majority of your day, I'm not saying you're going to get exactly what you wanted, but just watch how much your life changes.
Absolutely. Tell me it doesn't change in 30 days. And it starts small. We obviously have some similar ideals on how these things work and why they're important. And that's true. And just to go back to your athletes reference, I've used that one before too, because, Michael Phelps, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, every single one of those people, if you read any book they've wrote, if you see an interview of them and what they talk about and how they did it, how did you do it? How did you become the best of all time? Every single one of them will say somewhere in there multiple times, I believed it, so I did it every single day. I saw it. I knew I'm going to get that. I'm going to do this. And Michael Jordan will even go to the extra length of, and Tom Brady too, they'll say, I was rarely satisfied with the win as much as I was disappointed with the loss. Those ones were the ones that I was like, I can do better than that. I'm better than that. Yeah. I'm better than that. And then go out there and do it so that when they did it, it was expected by them. They're like, of course I did, because that's what I was going to do. And I've been thinking about it and doing it every single day. And it's like that type of work ethic from the mind is so obvious when you list those people that they have it in common, but it's so hard to do. Some people are just naturally good at that, and those people would be some of them. They've been thinking that since they were little kids, and then some have to work really, really hard at it. But either way, anyone can do it. And so the how to is the important part. You talk about the other 23 hours and 59 minutes of the day, and that cracks me up because there's so many people who they'll have a conversation with you and it's like they're motivated, they're ready to go, they're doing it, they think that, and then as soon as that conversation is over, it's like they just deflate, and now it's time to sit on the couch for a couple hours and or go play some video games while they think about what they should do next. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that in terms of self-care and doing what you want to do and blah 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 blah, but then are you satisfied with the outcome? And if you're not satisfied with the outcome, there's probably some behaviors that might need to change, and what can we do differently? And like you said earlier, people sometimes come across as maybe inherently lazy, and what I mean by that is more apathetic and more oh well, it'll be fine. It doesn't really affect me. Oh, you know what? I'm happy the way I look. Oh, I'm happy with my job. At least I get retirement, or blah 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 blah. But then 50 years go by and they go, I wasted all that time. So back to the neuroplasticity, because I really love that term and I really love that concept. And when I talk to students about it, it's almost like they they can't believe it in some senses, or it's obvious in another. Like, don't all cells do that? I'm like, well, no, that is not what neuroplasticity means. It means that you literally are a lifelong learner. There's concrete knowledge, then there's fluid knowledge, right? And so being able to change your mind is a natural ability of the brain. Otherwise, you would never learn anything. So how can you go on with that?
Yeah, and you run into the big thing that I try to find, and sometimes this helps, not in every case scenario, but in a lot of scenarios that I've held, that I try to ask somebody, what's in charge of your body? Your body or your brain? Like what's the difference? Is it your brain? Like what is really making that happen, and who's in charge? And it's like that has helped a little bit. But what I really love to get into is and I use this example of myself. The story that I used to tell myself, I'm tired all the time. And I would say the word tired probably 100 times that day. I'd be yawning. I'd be doing anything under the book that is part of like whatever. I couldn't wait to take a nap. I couldn't, like, it was always this thing. And then I also then had a bit of insomnia at night. And then I'm looking at the clock and I only have 8 hours until I have to be up. And then it was 7 and then 4.5 hours. And I'm like, I still haven't fallen asleep yet. And what's going on? And my brain is just like running. And I was always telling myself, I'm tired, I'm tired. And the cool thing within neuroplasticity is it interacts with your reticular activating system, your RAS.
Yep.
And what that does is essentially it's the whole red car theory, or if you buy a new car, that whole theory of I bought a Subaru Forester 5 years ago. And once I bought that, I saw that car all
Everywhere.
and you didn't notice it before, but it's literally you're priming your brain. So we're able to prime our brains in different ways. And what I started doing was going into in the last 10 minutes before you go to sleep and the first 10 minutes when you wake up, your brain is still in a partially theta state, which is very, very easy to hit your subconscious. So it's the best time to do your affirmations. It's the best time to do stuff that is positive for you. And go into the bathroom, brush your teeth with your opposite hand, get different cells in your brain firing. And those last 10 minutes first 10 are so important. And I would challenge anybody, even if you don't want to try the neuroplasticity side of this, just do this for me as a favor. Set your alarm, put it on the other side of the room, and wait 10 minutes, like turn your alarm off when it goes off, but wait 10 minutes before you pick your phone up. Because your brain is in that theta state. And if you pull up social media where you're comparing yourself to people, or you have a family issue, and once you open up your text, you're going to see all those problems. You are feeding your subconscious fear, anger, resentment, and comparison. And that's what I think is the problem with so many people in society today. I don't really think it's their fault. I don't think that people are inherently bad. I really think on the whole, people are inherently good. It's just the ones who portray as bad don't know that good is possible or haven't seen it.
Yes, diamonds. You're dropping pearls in here. I love it. It is so good to hear not just this is possible, but here's some tangible steps. Here's some things you could do right now for free today. You can start right now.
I was about to say one more thing to add. As I started that story and ADHD, I veered off. Same category, but where I was going with it was so for the last 3 months, and my fiance can attest to this because she saw it in person. I was always saying I was tired. That was just that ongoing thing. And I tested this because I challenged one of my clients to do it, and I do everything that I ask someone else to do. I'm going to be one to see, does it work for me too?
Yeah.
And I started saying during those last 10 minutes at night, when my alarm goes off, I'm going to have so much energy. And that was whether I'm getting 2 hours of sleep, 10 hours of sleep, no matter what the interval is. When that alarm goes off, I'm going to have so much energy. Today is going to be a great day. When I wake up, I'm going to have the best day. Something great is happening to me today. Something along that line of, if you're in that frame of mind, again, watch how good your life can get if you start actively thinking that, because now I have energy to a level that I'm off caffeine to the level that I used to be on. It's like everything is decreased. And the only difference is that I'm meditating and actively just doing that the last 10 minutes of every night. It takes me all 20 to 30 seconds to change my whole mindset around of whether I'm feeling tired or feeling awake and alive.
Yes. I feel like there was some things back in like the 90s that were done and said that we thought were ridiculous, or we just were like, that person's an outlier, or that situation's not whatever. And here we are 25 years later, 30 years later, and you see we have all this science now that supports these things, and it's like, oh, that was before its time. Do you remember the movie Jerry Maguire?
Yeah.
Like right towards the beginning. Yeah, one of mine too. And right towards the beginning, he talks about his coach. He's like, my late great coach. And then it flashes over to him. And he's like, every morning I wake up, I jump out of bed and I say, today is going to be a great day. And we used to just kind of laugh about that. Be like, oh, yeah. Well, you don't have my life. You don't know what. Like, we'll start to justify why we can't just say the same thing. Then I was always thinking about how, like, when we were kids and we get in trouble in school, sometimes you'd have to stay afterwards and you would have to write lines on the board, right? Yeah. Over and over and over again. You'd have to turn in 150 of, I will not throw things in class, or I am not going to hit other people. Hitting other people is bad, or whatever it might be. Well, they might have been onto something. You write that 150 times, and your brain does change because the repetition matters. The saying it in an I statement matters. Whether you're forced to do it or not, your frontal lobe and your parietal lobe that are controlling that arm, and you're controlling what you're comprehending and putting down, there is going to be an effect. And so we know this stuff. It's not rocket science. This is all out there. And so it is crucial that everyone in life, no matter who they are, but especially those that are completely wrapped up in the world of technology and social media, regain control of their relationship with themselves, because it's themselves. It's called self-esteem. You gotta build it. And when you don't feel good about yourself, you have to ask yourself, why? And what can I do to change it? Is there anything? And most people think that it takes a pill. Like they need to go to a doctor and start medicating somehow. And it's free, and it's not as hard as people think. So I really appreciate that you said all those things, because we know the difference, right, David? Like we know, and we'll still fall victim to our own stuff because we're human beings, right? I can't tell you how often and I know that trick too. I love that, by the way. I'll still say like, oh, I'm just really tired. I'm just so tired. Oh gosh, it's going to be such a long day. It's going to be a long week. This is just a really hard week. And then when you start doing that, lo and behold, guess who's having a long, hard week? And it's like, dude, you already know how this is going to happen. Change the way you say it. Change your mindset, and good things change. So I love that you said that, man.
Thank you. And yeah, I was going to get into when I tell people how good it gets. I think that this is justification enough of just what's happened in my life, and but take it, do it yourself, and try it, see what happens for you. But for me, I used to have crazy high anxiety from the overthinking that I used to experience. So
Mhm.
every Sunday at maybe 3 p.m., I started feeling this twisting in my stomach, knowing I had to go back to work on Monday.
Oh yeah.
And I always had that anxiety, whether it was school, work, whatever. I just that you had to get back into it. And what all these things have done, using neuroplasticity, slowing down all the things, meditating, getting this calm down and getting the cortisol down and getting everything else into normal levels, what it's done for me is things that used to feel like time would drag, the things I didn't like, those things go really fast now. And then all the things that I love that used to go by in a blink when I was stressed out all the time, they actually feel like they last longer. And
Wow.
it's the coolest thing that it's like I feel like just from doing this, I was like, it's just spending time because I was like, the way I perceive time is just literally totally different.
Right.
So it one of just the biggest impacts that I say I can tell people on the tangible level, hey, that tired to awake feeling that I haven't like that is no joke. And I'm not taking supplements or anything that's giving me like an extra boost. I am taking less than I've ever have, and it's the best. It's just I used to be on 3 to 4 Red Bulls a day,
Right. Me
and
too.
I transitioned. So I knew how bad, and literally, I caught myself last year. I was at my fiance's, my in-laws' place in Florida, and I literally say to my future father-in-law that I go to take a sip of Red Bull, and he looks at me, and I literally look at him. I was like, I know it's awful for me, but it gives me energy. And literally, I said that out loud. And as I said that, I was like, yeah, I've got to stop this. That's not like it's just not who I am. And I'm saying out loud that it's bad, and I'm doing it anyway. Like what the heck?
Oh yeah.
And so luckily, we did a vacation in Europe like right after that, and in what gave me the kickstart was in Europe, they don't allow any of the flavored Red Bulls, any of those artificial flavors, because all that stuff is super processed and bad for you.
Huh.
So stuff over there in Europe, in the UK, all that, it's like if you have candy, try their candy there. It tastes so much better because it's none of the junk that we have here in the States.
All right.
And you're able to kind of get that natural feel. A lot of like what the candy was when if you were in the 90s growing up. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
that. And so you there's a huge difference of where that's been. And it's just like, man, like it's the little things that you can do like that that take control back of your life. You can really just navigate so much better in just what you're doing currently, just by having a different mindset and approaching things a little differently.
Oh man. I've I agree. I love it. I agree. And it's so inspiring for me to hear somebody else saying all these things. Um m- my my girlfriend does this too. She's very good at saying all these things and she lives it and I get to watch it and it's inspiring, right? I know
Mhm.
some really great people in the world that work in and stuff who live by it and you watch it happen. But sometimes you get tired of saying it over and over again, even though you're doing it and you know it's true. And you don't realize that having somebody else who's doing this with other people saying it again to you is like, yes, yes, okay.
Mhm.
You get some confirmation, sometimes that you didn't realize you needed a re-up of that inspiring word. And so thank you for all of this, David. I'm really stoked and I appreciate your time today, man. We've had such a good conversation. I could talk to you for 5 hours, man. It's awesome.
You get you got it. Oh, so I'm so sorry that I didn't finish. I'll finish this story real quick,
Yeah,
so
go
I'm
for
not
it. Yeah,
taking
yeah,
up
yeah.
too much more of your time. So the whole Red Bull thing. So we go on a Europe vacation and we're there for 11 days.
Yeah.
And I had just read in a recent study of what happens with neuroplasticity is if you can stop something and have none of it for 17 days to 21 days or 22 days. But 17 is kind of like the magic number for most people.
Uh-huh.
So I get back to the States after those 11, 12 days in Europe. I haven't had a Red Bull, and I'm like, all right, I've already been through the 12. I was like, I only have to do 5 more, and I can kind of go about this. And literally, so I was able to transition from Red Bull to coffee, which is a much healthier alternative
Right.
caffeine wise. And then when I started doing this routine that I started telling you recently, I started doing these routines because of how well this works. So the neuroplasticity, that stuff, it's legit. It works. It's just as real as
So
anything you do brushing
17,
your teeth on a daily basis.
yeah, so 17, 20 days ish is like the length of time it takes the neuroplasticity to where like you can break a habit or build a habit is the deal?
You won't like if say you like crave a fast food or you eat a lot of McDonald's
Right.
and you don't and like 2 days after you just had it, you're salivating for it. You have that like whatever feeling.
Right.
If you go those 17 to 21 days, you don't have any of those urges anymore. They're gone. If you've not cheated and you've done it the right way, you don't have the urge for that thing anymore.
Yeah, there's a nice pearl of wisdom for people. I love
Yep.
that. And you know what? That's such a good pardon the pun, bite-sized piece of advice that people can latch onto that and try it, because it's not like the end of the world. It's not like you got to work out for 6 months. It's not like you got to do this for a year. No, 17 days. And you keep saying you want to not do that anymore, and you keep saying it's not good. So, here, try this. 17 to 20 days. And at the end of that 20 days, if I'm a big fat liar, you could just say you were wrong, and then you can try something else. Or you might go, wow, I kicked that. And if nothing else, you kicked it for a little more than almost 3 weeks. So good for you. But it is true. Yeah, neuroplasticity is a scientific thing. It's biological. We know it for sure. So, well, David, I really appreciate all your time today. I'm really grateful that we had this conversation. And so here's what I want you to do is just tell us where we can get more information about you, about your book, about what you do, in case our listeners are like, I need to follow up with this guy and go see what's going on.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, David McKee 84, DAVID MCKEE 84, or Another Angle Consulting on Instagram. That's where we do majority of our social media, any push like that. The book is called Navigate the Noise. It should be out in the winter of 2025. Like I said, I'll give you that advanced copy, and anyone who's a listener who's interested, I'll make sure that there's some type of special promo that you guys can get a special code.
Oh, man, that's so cool, David. Thank you so much. I will be following you on Instagram shortly, and I'm looking forward to reaching out and talking to you more about some stuff as we go forward, just because I know that we can only get so much in a podcast episode, but I definitely think we have some similar outlooks on some things, so I'd like to maybe go down the road of consulting with you a little bit more on some other things, too, because I think you have a lot to offer. And in the meantime, forget all that. Enjoy your week, man. You're getting married. Congratulations. I hope you have an awesome celebration and you guys just get to enjoy each other and the love you've built. And, work will always be waiting for you when you get back.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, it really means the world, and I had a blast today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Take care.